Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Lily Reads. So in today's video, we have a wrap up. I don't know why I'm taking so long to tell y'all this. This is my November wrap up. How do I feel about November? The reason why I need to do this wrap up real quick, I got some library books to take back, so I need to show you what I read. Blah, blah, blah. Like, did I get any 5-star reads this month? No. I have absolutely no 5-star reads to tell you about. I didn't even read that many books. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's a lot of books. That's 11 books. But they were kind of short. A lot of these books don't even pass 200 pages. So, like, I kind of cheated it in that way. But also my 4-star reads, I'm not that passionate about. You probably won't see any of them on the end of the year list. They're just kind of like, okay, one of them has like the best cover. I think one of the best covers that I read this year, but overall, not so much. So let's start with our November book club pick by Mimi Grace. It is What a Match, and it has been through the ringer, child. What a Match by Mimi Grace. So this book is a roommates to lovers type book. We have Duncan, which we met in another book before this. This book is part of like a trilogy. We met a character named Duncan in the book before. He has a sister, and her name is Gwen. And so Duncan has a friend that's Anthony, and Anthony has to move in with Duncan because something is happening with his apartment. But Duncan is renovating his apartment, so he doesn't want Anthony to breathe in the paint fumes. So he's like, Duncan's like, hey Gwen, can Anthony move in with you for a little bit because I don't want him homeless and he can't live at my house. So she's like, sure, yeah, he can sleep on my couch. Well, Anthony has always had a crush on Gwen since he met Gwen, so he's like, ooh, I don't know if I want to be roommates with her. It might reignite some feelings I had for her. So they're roommates, and before you know it, they start to hang out and they start to like each other, and that is What a Match. I thought that this book was a hit, and I will be honest, this does have mixed reviews from my book club. From my book club, it was mixed reviews. You got some people who gave it as low as a 2, and you got people like me who gave it a 4. We had a couple people give it a 5, so it does have mixed reviews, but I enjoyed this book. I think this was roommates to lovers done well. I felt like we really had two people who grew and bonded and became like a good couple. I thought the hijinks were good. I thought the banter was good. I thought the smut was good. I think this book is really, really good. It's a very low investment. It's 234 pages, so it's really easy to read. You could read it in a day if you wanted to. I thought it was really good. I kicked my feet up and was grinning from ear to ear about it. The next book is Body and Soul Food. A really, really great cover, but unfortunately not a great book in my opinion. It is by Abby Collette. Abby Collette is the author of that Deadly Scoop murder mystery, cozy murder mystery series. I own those. I own a couple of them, but I haven't read it yet. So this will be my first Abby Collette book. What is this book about? This book is about two siblings who are given away at birth. One was adopted, one was put in foster care, but they have found their way back together, and they are opening up a bookstore / soul food restaurant. Well, one day at the soul food restaurant, they are talking to their friend, and before they know it, one of them decide they're gonna like link back up with the friend. So they're like, let's meet on the train. She gets on the train where she's gonna meet up with that person who they were talking to at the restaurant, and lo and behold, he is dead on the train. And so they embark on this journey of trying to figure out why the person that they know is dead. Anyways, I just felt like this book didn't all the way reach all the levels to me. It did that thing that murder cozy mysteries do sometimes, where it's like the characters are stumped the entire book. Then you get to the last like 10-15% of the book, and the characters know all types of information you as the reader would never make privy that they even know. And all of a sudden they have all this information, and they're solving the entire murder and everything that is going on. I felt like our brother and sister characters read as a couple. They read as a will they won't they couple. I might be alone in that, but they read as a will they won't they couple a little bit, and it didn't read siblings a lot. I don't think it just didn't to me. It just didn't work for me. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars, maybe 3 out of 5 if I'm being generous, but it just didn't work for me. The next book we have is a Valerie Wilson Wesley, A Glimmer of Death. So this is about a widow. She works in a real estate office. She used to have like a bakery, I believe, but after her husband died, it kind of went under. She didn't really have the will to keep it up. She didn't really have a will to do much of anything, but she was like, I'm going to be a real estate agent. It might be easy money. So she's working at this like seedy real estate agency where like this boss threatens to kill them sometimes. He's really like sketchy. But one day, though, she goes into the real estate agent's office and he's talking to her, and she has this like sixth sense where she can like smell death. She can see death on people, like if they're going to die or someone near them is going to die. And she senses death in his office. Well, lo and behold, he ends up murdered. And she decides, so they decide that someone who she is friends with is the murderer. And so she wants to clear his name because she doesn't believe that he did it. And she wants to find out who the actual murderer is. So she sets off on this journey to solve this murder. I thought this book was solid, so much so that I own the second book and I'm going to read the second book. This is also another short one. Like all the books that I'm talking about are really short and really easy to read. I just had a lull of a reading month. I just tried to read some short books just to keep me reading. I thought this book was pretty solid. I'm not going to lie. Like, it wasn't the best book I read this year. It didn't get a 4 because I didn't think it executed everything perfectly. But I enjoyed this idea of this like real estate agency where everything and everyone is sketchy as hell. I enjoyed that aspect of it. And I enjoyed the like magical realism element of this book. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. If Body and Soul is 3 leaning 2, this is 3 leaning 4. The next book which is probably the worst book I read last month, is Like a Sister by Kelly Garrett. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Okay, so this book follows a girl who lives in the Bronx. She has a half family. So through her dad, and she has a sister who's kind of like a socialite and all of that stuff. And she finds out that her socialite sister has died via a drug overdose. But she finds it weird that her sister died via a drug overdose because of the type of drugs that they say she overdosed on. So she's like, everything about my sister's murder is kind of sketchy. Even though we no longer have the best relationship, I want to set out on this journey and try to solve her murder because I just feel like I owe her this. We never got to spend time together, and everything about the situation is sketchy. So we have this character. She sets out to solve her half-sister's murder. Nothing about this book worked for me. Nothing about this book worked for me except for the fact that it took place in New York, and I love everything about New York City and books that take place in New York City. But other than that, it just did not work for me. The character was annoying. The way that they went about trying to solve the mystery. So this is what they did. They would just go from person to person and ask them if they killed somebody. The person would say no, but hey, this person might have done it. And then they will move on to that person that the person just told them might have done it. And that's not how you do a murder mystery book. Like, we need to actually have clues and things to pick up on. And, you know, it just didn't feel like a story. It just felt like going from person to person to person until we finally figure out who the actual murderer is. And it's also boring. It was also boring. So I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars. 2 leaning more 1 than 2 leaning towards 3. The next book is actually our book club pick. I pushed back the book club a week because I went out of town for my birthday. But we read Xyla and Kai. I love this cover as well, by Christina Forrest. I read I Want to Be Where You Are by Christina Forrest just last year, and I loved it. So just last year? No, just a few months ago, and I loved it. But we have Xyla and Kai, which was a Lily Reed's book club pick. So in this book, we follow Xyla and Kai. Xyla and Kai both live in this town and work at this amusement park. They're kind of from different sides of like the neighborhood, in a sense that like Xyla is very like quiet and reserved. Kai is very out there and popular, and so they end up working together in this amusement park, and slowly they start to build friendship and eventually a relationship. But we have this also present storyline where they've gone missing and everyone is looking for them. So you have 2 timelines, timeline where they're getting to know each other and like their life is kind of coming together and falling apart. And then we have the storyline where they're missing and everyone is looking for them. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. To me, this book just doesn't fully come together. I feel like you're getting a lot of build up and not a lot of actual moments, not a lot of actual meat on the bones. This book book could have been great, but at a book that's sitting at almost a 400 word count for a young adult book, it just doesn't do a lot of anything for me. And I really love young adult romance this year. This one was just a miss for me. It didn't fully, I loved Kai as a character. I loved Kai as a character. He's someone dealing with the fact that his parents died. He lives with his uncle and aunt and their expectations of him. He's dealing with a lot, and I enjoyed that aspect of it, but it didn't really hit for me the way I thought it would. That was a 5-star prediction for me, and it just didn't. The next book that we read was Julia Armfield. The next book that I read, I keep saying the next book that we read, like we did nothing. I read it and told you about it, is Our Wives Under the Sea. A great cover, also nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award. So this book takes place in 2 timelines. 2 timelines, 2 POVs. We have a timeline where this woman and these 2 women are married and they're living life and, you know, they're going through the life and all of that stuff. And then we have we have 2 timelines where the woman is missing and the woman is back. And then in there, you're hearing stuff about their past, but I wouldn't call that another timeline. But so basically, this woman, she's like a submarine explorer, like she explores the ocean and all this stuff, but she gets stuck under there. And this woman is trying to deal with the fact that her wife is stuck under the sea. Then she gets out of the sea and she's dealing with what is left of her wife now that she's no longer under the sea and what happened to her in there. This book is weird. This book is creepy. I think this book works perfectly in the horror category for good reason. It's horrific. It worked for me. I'm not going to say too much for it. I went in here blind. I think you should go in here blind, but I did give it 4 out of 5 stars. And it's a 4 leaning more towards a 5 than a 4 leaning towards a 3. I really enjoyed that book. The next book is probably the most overrated book of this pile. The Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Slocum. This book is sitting in the 4s on Goodreads, and I don't know how. So this book is about this black dude. He got a violin from his great-grandfather, and come to find out this violin is worth millions of dollars, and so he is getting ready to go to this competition, and the violin is stolen. And because of that, we get taken back in time on how our main character got the violin, why would people want the violin, and all of that. This just didn't work for me. It didn't work for me as a mystery. It didn't work for me as a family type drama type book. It didn't work for me in any of those ways. I found it boring in some parts. I found it stereotypical in other, and I found it having a little bit too much trauma for me. Yes, I said something has too much trauma for me, but a lot of it seemed like it was trying to nail the point home a little too much, and it lost me in it. So I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. Didn't work for me. The Violin Conspiracy. Wedding Crashers by Mia Sosa. This book is about a woman who she is working a wedding and she finds out that the bride don't want to marry the groom. She's getting married for all the wrong reasons. So our main character, her name's Solange, she decides to crash their wedding, and basically she crashes the wedding and they don't get married. Well, the groom in that situation, he wants to go up in his job, and he thinks he's not going to because people are going to believe that he's not like a family guy because he's not getting married anymore. Everyone knows he got jilted at the altar and all that stuff. So he's like, actually, I know this girl and I'm dating this girl. Well, the girl he's talking about is actually Solange, who broke up his wedding. So they start on this journey of dating, and this is their trial and tribulation and everything they go through doing that. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't like it. I did not. It was just fine. It was just fine, which is pretty much what I expected. It is what I got. It was a fine book. Me and Mia Sosa, we won't be revisiting each other, I don't think, unless someone just says a Mia Sosa book is just going to blow me away. The next book is Jackal by Erin E. Adams. So this book follows a woman in a town where black girls just seem to go missing. Black girls in the town seem to go missing, and everyone keeps saying it is an accident. But in this book, our main character, she is determined to get to the root of why these black girls are going missing, when a black girl that's close to her ends up being one of the girls who's going missing. Jackal had moments that I loved, it had moments that I didn't love, but overall, these types of books don't work for me. These types of books do not work for me. I call it the Jordan Peele Get Out syndrome. It's never gonna work. It's just never gonna work. I do not want to read a type of book like that. I think Get Out was a great movie, and we should leave it at that. I don't think we need to continue to write books that are in that same vein. I don't know if the book is in that same vein, but it all feels like it's in that same vein. I want less black horror, mystery novels to revolve around white people and white supremacy. White people and white supremacy can always be the undertone of the book because that's what we live in, but like it just being the thing of the book, I probably spoiled the book for you. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. So at this point, it's generic. At this point, it's late. At this point, it's tired. So if that works for you, this does it well. I think if that works for you, this does it well. I don't want to take away from the fact that I think this book is perfectly written. I think this book is written brilliantly. I think it achieves what it is trying to achieve. But for me and my taste and my home, it's never going to work. It's never going to work. Notes on the execution. This book is about a man who is on death row row and what he did to get there. And this detective who was trying to solve, what the hell is the detective trying to do? I forgot what I usually can go through these and remember who's doing what, but there's a detective in here. And, oh, she knew the guy who was on death row, but they were in the same foster home. This book worked for me until it didn't. This book was so interesting. It's about this guy telling you about him being on death row, his feelings about being on death row. And then it's about this detective who is trying to, like, we're going back in time about how she solves certain crimes and her relationship to the guy on death row. We're learning about the death row of inmates' family. It was good until we got to, like, this part. And it was just like, this got really boring. All of a sudden, this got really boring, really generic, really where the crawdad scene out of nowhere, and I don't care anymore. So I did give it 4 stars because that beginning half is so strong to me. It's so strong to me. It's so interesting. It's so compelling. But no. Ophelia, after all, love this cover too. So I love a lot of these covers. Ophelia, after all, this is about a girl named Ophelia who was dealing with being in high school, the end parts of high school, you know, prom, graduation, her sexuality, and all of that stuff, and all of her friends, and all of that. This book is so cute. This is a book, if you are young or you have a young person in your life, this would be a perfect book to give them for as a Christmas gift, I think. It worked. This book worked for me. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars. So that is it. That is it. These are the books that we read this month, last month. I will see you guys for a wrap up for December. I love you guys so much. Peace.